Senator Dan Sullivan from Alaska joins me. He knows that laryngitis doesn't feel bad. It just sounds bad. Good morning, Senator. Welcome back.
Good morning, Hugh. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. We're all looking at Saturday at 1:30 in Cleveland. I think this is the year. Not in Cleveland, in Houston. What do you think?
I think they're going the distance. This is the year. And, look, Flacco gets a lot of great press for his consistency. It's a great story. But as you know, the issue with the Browns is number one defense in the NFL, and that's critical. They are just, if they stay healthy, I'll see you at the Super Bowl.
You will, and you might see me at the Cleveland game. If the three wild cards win, Cleveland will host its first ever playoff game since 1999's return. I will be there. Senator Sullivan, I want to get to a bunch of things, but I want to start. You're active in the United States Marine Corps Reserve. If any colonel or above or Navy captain and above had gone missing from their command billet for 6 days without telling either their senior commander or their deputy commander that they were gone, would they have already been relieved?
I think so. And look, with the secretary, there's the issue of letting Congress know, and that's important. We're a co-equal branch of government. But what I've been saying is what's shocking, and it is shocking, the president didn't know, the National Security Advisor didn't know, the Deputy Secretary of Defense, who was ostensibly in charge, didn't know. And we're not saying it directly like this, Hugh, but the United States is at war. We got troops in combat right now. We got troops under fire all across the Middle East. And that element of what's happening with Secretary Austin that nobody in the Pentagon and chain of command knew. I'm meeting with the Indo-PACOM commander later this morning. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I just think he should be gone because it's not fair to have two standards, one for uniformed military and one for politicals. Secondly, Senator Sullivan, this morning, the headline in the Times of Israel, tanker in the Gulf of Oman seas boarded by unauthorized men in uniform. It's an oil tanker and military-style black uniforms on Thursday morning. It's been hijacked. Now, number one, can you do with an oil tanker what you did with an airplane on 9/11? And two, what do we do about retaking this?
Look, the entire approach to what's happening in the Middle East, particularly as it relates to the Red Sea, with the maritime assets, either ours, which are being regularly fired on by the Houthis, or the hijacking of commercial vessels, has been a classic case of Biden administration appeasement. As you know, and I'm almost certain this will be the case on this one, the Iranians are behind everything, Hugh, that's happening in the Middle East, whether it's the Houthis or Hamas or Hezbollah. Iran, the terrorists in Iran are behind it. And there was a headline in yesterday's paper that we're contemplating retaliating against the Houthis. I got a briefing yesterday, very senior intel briefing yesterday, and look, we could take out almost everything that they're doing in terms of firing on our Navy ships. And so we just have to have much more a resolute approach, particularly to Iran, saying this is going to stop, and the pinpricks have to stop, and it has to be very significant retaliation. It's one of the great things the Trump administration did. They reestablished deterrence with regard to Iran by killing Soleimani, but by showing, hey, you go after Americans, you try to kill Americans, we're going to triple the pain on you guys. And right now, this administration doesn't do it. They kind of wring their hands in public, and it's only creating more chaos. Weakness is provocative, and this is Exhibit A for that with Biden.
Well, people remember the movie with Tom Hanks about the freighter that was taken off Somalia. That was a big ocean. This is a little gulf. I think you can steer an oil tanker, and it's an oil tanker. I don't know if you can exploit an oil tanker, but I'm worried about the uses to which an oil tanker can be put. Do you have any idea about those, Senator?
Well, look, it's a really important question. And when you mention 9/11, one of the many things about 9/11 is that nobody really thought through kind of, hey, a bad guy can use a commercial aircraft for terrorism, right? And we woke up that, beautiful morning in September realizing that these terrorists have creative methods. And we learned that, a commercial airliner can be used as a terrorist weapon against thousands of Americans. So I think the way you're thinking about this, Hugh, is really smart, and we got to try to get in their mindset. But absolutely, a tanker could be used in a way that could harm U.S. interests and kill people and create chaos. So
the Fifth Fleet is over there at Bahrain, and I don't know how much oil an oil tanker carries, or if it's unflammable, or if it's possible to turn into a bomb. But I imagine we have eyes on it. Now we're going to need an order from a Secretary of Defense, who I don't know if he's home from the hospital. It's a mess. President Bumble and his administration is a mess. Let me turn.
I wrote just real quick on that. The Fifth Fleet. We have assets, and we have our great military capabilities who are trained, whether it's Marine recon as special operators or Navy SEALs, who are trained incredibly well to take down maritime vessels, right? We could go in there and take that down, kill the terrorists who are on that ship, as soon as the order is given. We have a great military that trains for that mission all the time. I think that's important for people to know.
Now I want to turn to the great mentioner has you on the list of people who could be a great vice presidential candidate for Donald Trump. I'm sure, I don't know if you've read my column this morning, I list his whole administration. I'm tired of the Donald Trump would be a dictator stuff. I don't know if he's going to be the nominee. I'm in Switzerland. I haven't endorsed anyone. I'll cover them all. They're all welcome here. But if he is the nominee, I'll support him. And I just think it's silly to think he's going to be a dictator. And I list the kind of people who would work for them, including you. What do you make of the list? What do you make of the idea that he'd be a dictator?
No, I think the idea that he'd be a dictator is ridiculous. And what's happening? Look, I'm the senator from Alaska, right? You want to talk about a dictator? Biden every damn day is issuing some new executive order, usually expressly lawless, to shut down my state. I think the Democrats need to look in the mirror on what this current administration is doing in terms of abusing the law, whether it's the daily barrage of shutting down Alaska through lawless means, whether it's things like, the student loan debt cancellation, which the U.S. Supreme Court said, hey, you can't do, and they said, yeah, thank you very much, we're going to keep doing it. I mean, the list on the Biden issues of being lawless is so long, and it's happening right now. It's happening right now. Nobody talks about that. So I think the Democrats need to look in the mirror when they talk about an executive who's abusing the rule of law. And my state is ground zero for that. I got the longest damn list you can imagine, Hugh.
Well, let me go to energy specifically. Energy is a big policy. I want Dan Brulette back at energy because he knows what he's doing. He was a very good Secretary of Energy. We're hearing from Democrats we've got the all-time largest production, so don't worry, Biden's doing it. They don't realize energy is a forward-looking market. Do you believe that Joe Biden's defense of his record on oil production will be successful in the fall?
No, absolutely not. And, look, again, my state is ground zero during the Trump administration. I worked hard in the 2017 Tax Cut and Jobs Act to get ANWR open. They've essentially come out and the law mandates 2 lease sales. It doesn't say you can think about it. It says there shall be 2 lease sales on ANWR. The Biden administration came out, canceled one. They just said, hey, you didn't consult well enough, and said, we're probably not going to do the second one. I mean, that's lawlessness. We have something called the National Petroleum Reserve of Alaska, NPRA, we call it, set aside for oil and gas development by the Congress over 7 years ago. They're locking up the whole thing. So you're exactly right. Energy markets are forward-looking. It's a giant source of American strength and power, our ability to unleash American energy all over the world. And these guys from day one attacked it. And so and the American people know that. It's why prices at the pump have gone up so much. So this is a unilateral surrender on one of the greatest assets we have in terms of American power that other countries, particularly the Chinese, Xi Jinping is scared to death of American global energy dominance. And
I have to break in with breaking news, Senator, breaking news. Iran has confirmed to the AP that its Navy seized the oil tanker in the Gulf of Oman. Iran seized it. How does that change the equation?
Yeah, look, I think we need to just up the ante, and Iran has oil and gas assets right now that are very important to them that we could take out in 1 hour. And to me, like I said at the top of this show, Hugh, deterrence has completely failed with these guys, and they need to reestablish deterrence. And unfortunately, the longer they've waited, the harder it is to reestablish it. But a pinprick right now is not going to be appropriate. We need to send Marines or Navy SEALs to seize that ship back, kill the Iranian terrorists on it. We have the capability to do that, and then up the ante in terms of deterrence on things that really matter to them, like their oil and gas sector.
I remember Operation Praying Mantis. You're too young, Senator Sullivan. Ronald Reagan sank almost the entire Iranian Navy in one day. Should we do something like that?
Well, I think, one of the things, as I mentioned, that they're very vulnerable right now is all their refining capability. And that is a huge source of their power. And we could take that out in, as I mentioned, a couple hours. So,
do you think they want a wider war? Let's close with this. Do you think Iran, given all that they've done and paid for and agreed to and winked at, and now they're actively seizing ships, do you think they want a war?
I don't think they want a war. I think Iran usually operates through its proxies. So this is an escalation, Hugh, the news that you're breaking right now, that they're actually claiming that they're doing it. That's very unusual for them. They usually operate through their proxies. But remember all the hand-wringing when President Trump ordered the killing of Soleimani. The Democrats were saying, this is going to bring a wider war. What have you done? You've unleashed this. And that didn't happen at all. And what it did was it reestablished deterrence. Remember, Soleimani and the Quds Force were responsible for the killing and wounding of over 2,000 Americans. They thought they could kill Americans with impunity. We need to disabuse them of that idea, and I think the time is now.
Well, the AP report, they're very rarely wrong. If they say Iran's claiming it, I believe Iran is claiming that they have seized a ship, and we will watch that space throughout the rest of the show and throughout the days ahead. Senator Dan Sullivan, make a great vice president, great national security advisor, and he is a great senator from Alaska. Thank you.